Welcome. You're watching Rugby with Rifle, a podcast about all things rugby and life, with your host, Danny Pabone and Rifle Scudder.
Welcome to Rugby with Rifle, a podcast about all things rugby and life. As always, I'm joined here by my friend Rifle, who has recently returned from his home country of South Africa, which he was in during the month of August. Rifle, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Danny. Yeah, good to be back. Good to be home, safe and sound. Wonderful, very interesting month to say the least in South Africa for August. But watched some of the the competition there, South Africa against Australia live. So that was amazing. And yeah, back and now waiting to 1.5 more sleep for South Africa against the All Blacks, 3 o'clock Saturday morning our time. So yeah, excited for that.
Cool. So yeah, in the future, everyone, we're gonna be dedicating an episode, probably a couple episodes, just to Rifle's experience being as. And if you're new to the podcast, Rifle is originally from South Africa, and rugby is you could say, religion in South Africa. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to you sharing your experiences over there. Being that part of the reason you were over there was for a reunion in, in the rugby school that you attended, in rugby high school that you attended in South Africa. So I'm looking forward to you sharing your experiences and all that. But for this episode, we're going to be covering the first two rounds of the Rugby Championship. And wow, what a first two rounds it is. You had mentioned this the other day, Rifle, that the competition is still up for grabs after the first two rounds, being that all four teams have a loss already in the competition. And again, if you're new to the podcast and to rugby, the Rugby Championship is an annual competition that involve four Southern Hemisphere teams, which are South Africa, New Zealand, Argentina, and Australia. And it's a much anticipated competition every year, being that all four teams are ranked in the top 10. So, yeah, a lot of exciting stuff in the first two rounds of the Rugby Championship, Rifle.
Very much so. Yeah, the whole competition is open now. Everything to play for. I think the biggest shock of all was South Africa losing to Australia
Yes.
in South Africa at Ellis Park, where they haven't lost to Australia before. So that was absolutely devastating, for us. And unfortunately, I was there watching it, so it was even worse.
I can
Couldn't
imagine your
couldn't turn off the
experience.
TV, walk away. It's like in your face everywhere. So yeah, but that was, I think, the biggest shock so far of the
Yes.
tournament. And it just adds to Saturday's game because New Zealand also losing to Argentina
Mm.
in the second test, and South Africa even maybe a bit lucky at the end of the day to win the second test against Australia. So Argentina obviously a sniff of blood now, so they're ready to go. They've beaten New Zealand and well deserved. So they're coming with everything they have for Argentina. For Australia. Australia have absolutely upped their game. Last year we were talking about how they battled, they were not good, and then Joe
Yes.
Schmidt came in, turned them around. British Irish Lions tour, they stepped up to the plate, unlucky in certain instances not to win more than what they did. And they took on South Africa in South Africa at Ellis Park at altitude, all of that stuff that was against them, and they still hammered the Springboks. So very, very interesting. The competition absolutely basically back to zero. Every team has everything to play for. Some teams got a bonus point that wasn't expected. Other teams didn't where it was expected, so on and so forth. So it's a very, very interesting competition thus far.
Yes, yes, it is, and a lot of excitement, a lot of I guess you would say drama in some sense, but that's the thing about sports. There's always drama, and actually that's what makes sports fun, and that's what attracts fans to sports is all the drama, all the different scenarios that occur, especially in a competition such as this where you have four powerhouses, rugby powerhouses playing against each other. So let's get right to it, not waste any more time. So, as we had mentioned a short time ago, yeah, each team has one win and one loss, and through two rounds of the Rugby Championship, the 2025 Rugby Championship. And we're just going to start off with that round one game between South Africa and Australia. And you had mentioned that you were actually in South Africa during this game. And I just can't imagine the emotions and the explicit and the cursing that was going on around you. I can imagine, Rifle, because this game was really a tale of two halves. And South Africa started first quarter of the game, first 20 minutes of the game. It looked like South Africa was going to steamroll Australia because they were hitting on all cylinders the first 20 minutes of the game. And then the second half happens, and it was a
Yeah,
total opposite.
yeah, not even the second half. I mean, we were up, I think it was 17-0,
Yes.
17-5 by 20 minutes in the game. And I was thinking, and I know a lot of other people, was not just me, but I was thinking, here's a 50. My goodness, Australia, really, they're battling. It is at altitude. And let me
Mm,
just explain what it means to play at altitude is when you play at what they call the high veld in South Africa. Ellis Park is the highest stadium there.
okay.
So it's difficult to breathe. You get tired if you're not used to that. So a lot of Australia, they sea level. And when you come to the high veld, you go up. So,
Mm,
in America, it's when you go to Colorado and you're in the
yeah.
Rockies and you try and breathe up there, it's more difficult. So altitude, people always talk about that. You kick the ball, it goes further because the air is thinner. So after 20 minutes, we were leading, by 20 points, 17 points, and we were thinking, oh my goodness, he has a 50. And the next thing, one try and another try. Now, okay, now they got two lucky tries. Oh my goodness, three, they back in the game. Oh my, they leading. Oh, we can't catch. And it was, oh Lord, what happened? What in the world just went on there? Because I don't know if you can remember in the beginning of the year, when South Africa played our warm-up game, so to speak. New Zealand played against France.
Mm,
The Aussies had the British and Irish Lions, but we played against Georgia and we played against Italy. And those games, also almost started the same. And one game against Italy was the same. We started off with a bang, and then just a couple of minutes before half time, Italy started coming back. And if you just take the second half of that game, Italy outscored South Africa. So we lost one half and we won one half. And that should not be South Africa. No offense or nothing bad against Italy, but that should just not have been. And Italy really came back the second half. And that's exactly what happened to us against Australia. We kicked off, and like you say, we were firing on all cylinders. Everything was just perfect. And then, for whatever reason, we have ideas and think what went wrong and so on and so forth. But Australia came back, and it's kind of a pattern now,
mhm.
unfortunately. Scary to say for South Africa that they start well, but they can't finish. Other teams, that's their problem. It's not our problem. But now we're facing that. And now, I know we're not talking about this today, but this coming weekend, the All Blacks against South Africa, that's the whole, can we finish better than we started? Are we going to start the same? So all of that. But South Africa just absolutely fell out of the bus in the second half, played too much rugby. Instead of slowing things down, we passed the ball too many times, passed the ball in just not safe spaces, and they had an intercept try. So just did not play to the level that everyone in the world expected South Africa to play, and none more so than the South African fans. However, I've said this on this channel, rugby, your teams go up and down. It's never, no one stays at the top forever. South Africa's had a purple patch for the last couple of years, and just it's amazing how you start just to, for whatever reason, expect, oh, this is an easy game, we should win. No, it's not. It doesn't happen that way. And then when you just expect your team to win by 10, 20, 30, 40 points, and then they don't win that far, or they lose, now everyone, what's wrong? So they lost the game, big deal. They've done well. They're not number one anymore. New Zealand is now number one. But after all the games that we've played in the last 8, 9 years, we've only lost so many. It's very, very few. I'm sure you can count them on one hand. So we've had 2 or 3 bad games, but is that enough for us to start panicking? And, should we fire the coach? Should the players be, sent home? Things like that. We'll see tomorrow what happens. But all fairness to Australia, they came back. They did not give up. I mean, you can imagine being 20-0 behind after 20 minutes. And you fight, and that's what we've always said. We've said it, with England in the Six Nations. Some games they should not have won, but they stayed in the game. They kept it, and at the last minute they came through. Yeah, Australia didn't give up. They could have just said, oh, this is too difficult, and stopped playing, but they didn't, and they won the game. And that is phenomenal for the game of rugby, not just that game itself, but just for the game of rugby, because you need a strong Australia in the world. You need a strong Wales in the world to have rugby, at the level that people want to see it played. So well done to Australia, well deserved. They stuck it out. They did everything they could, and they had a 38-22 well-deserving win. But it was not fun being in South Africa, watching that, having to go back to the bottle store to get another brandy and Coke for the people to just lick their wounds and try and recover from that. However, it is what it is. It's sport. You win some, you lose some, and congratulations to Australia, who won fair and square. Well done, guys.
So I'm just curious, were there any native Australians watching the game with you?
Not where I was. No, we were just a bunch of Springboks.
That would have made it worse if there were any native
exactly.
Australians.
So we could just lick our own wounds. We didn't have someone to throw salt in it, so it was okay for us.
So yeah, just 2 things that I want to mention about this game before we move on to Argentina, New Zealand round 1. Is you had mentioned this before, Australia coming off of their performance against the British and Irish Lions. They won the third test match against the Lions, and they looked amazing. So, and then losing the second test match that we've covered in the previous episode, the way they did at the end of the match. So you had mentioned that Australia, wow, they're looking really good. They looked really good against the Lions. So it was somewhat surprising that they beat South Africa in the way they did in round 1. But at the same time, if you're really being objective, it wasn't surprising as well at the same time because of the performance they put up against the British and Irish Lions tour back in, when was it, June?
During the summer, before this competition. Yeah, they turned things around for them. Joe Schmidt absolutely took that team and just, wow, where they were to where they are now. And that's what's going to be so wonderful this weekend. Most people are talking about the Springboks and the All Blacks, but what a rugby game that's going to be, Argentina against Australia. I mean, those two teams playing brilliant rugby at this stage, both of them doing so well, both of them 1 loss, 1 win. So it's all to play for, and it's going to be very, very interesting, I think, how things play out.
Yes, it is. And to all the American football fans and basketball fans and baseball fans, if you watch this, if you probably won't be able to see the games live because you have to have certain subscriptions, streaming services to watch them, but watch the replays. This is an amazing game, an amazing tournament. And if you're I've said this many times before, if you're an American football fan and you give rugby a chance, you'll be like, wow, This is an amazing sport. So that's a little plug for rugby. So the second game in round one, we have Argentina and New Zealand. This game was actually a lot closer than what the score says, the final score says, because this was a one-score game until late in the match, probably until I think it was about with like 6 or 7 minutes left. This game was 31-24. So Argentina was within one try and conversion of tying the game, and they really gave New Zealand a run for their money up till maybe minute 72, 73, when New Zealand scored a try. Then they scored a penalty kick, if I'm not mistaken, the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game. But in the end, it was a valiant effort by Argentina, but the experience of the All Blacks and, their defense, All Blacks came out with the win 41-24. So, yeah.
When those teams went into the change room at half time, it could be anyone that could come off with a win there. It
Yes.
was difficult to say who would. The Argentinians played really well, and a couple of mistakes in the end that cost them dearly. But up until half time, and even after that, the first 3 minutes was difficult to say. So Argentina did very well. But then knowing the second game, that we'll talk about just now, was in Argentina, they were really, their home fans, and they got behind the team and they did well. But even that first game, as you correctly said, the score flattered New Zealand because Argentina stuck in there and played very well. It's just the last maybe quarter of the game that New Zealand really took control. But it was a very, very hard game and good rugby, yes.
Yeah, yes, it was. And again, another thing that we've mentioned many times on this podcast, the strength of the Argentine team over the past decade. They really have risen. They really have invested in their rugby team, and it shows. The fact that they're the top 10 in the rugby world rugby rankings, international rankings, it just goes to show how far the Argentine rugby team has come over the past decade or so. And Argentina is, if you were to ask any typical sports fan, what's Argentina known for in sports, they would say soccer. So to me, it was a shock when I started learning about the game of rugby, seeing Argentina being a powerhouse in rugby, because I had the same thought. Oh, I know Argentina is for soccer. I didn't realize they had a great rugby team. So yeah, it's good to see Argentina, being from South America, obviously, investing in the team and becoming a rugby powerhouse internationally. It's great to see.
Yeah, last year they beat every team. I mean, there's not a team that they didn't beat at one stage. They beat the Springboks, they beat New Zealand, they beat Australia. They beat all of those teams some other time during the year. And a lot of their players play overseas, so they're getting to play with the Springboks, with the Aussies, with the New Zealanders in other competitions. And obviously that's just gained a lot of experience for their players and so on. So they're doing very well. And as you say, they're in the top 10, and they proved that they've already beaten New Zealand, which is amazing. So very, very good for Argentina.
Yes. And then the first game, round two, we have South Africa, Australia again. South Africa coming out with the win. This was a tough game because I had read that previous days to the match, it was raining a lot in South Africa. So the field conditions weren't that great. The field was very wet. You could tell watching the replay of this game this past week, just the handling errors that occurred in this game, and that's just from the fact that the ball was wet, the ball touching the ground and then the ball becoming wet. So a lot of handling errors in this game from both teams, and then and we've touched upon this. South Africa again having a second half that wasn't so great, and letting the Australian team come back in the second half, because well, the score was 24-22, if I'm not mistaken, at one point late in the game.
Uh-huh.
And then I believe South Africa got two penalty kicks. So yeah, again, South Africa really letting their guard down in the second half, but fortunately, this time around they were able to hang on and get the win. So yeah,
Yeah, South Africa, like I said previously, maybe a little bit luckier. We got the rub of the green there. A lot of injuries for the Aussies.
yes,
I think Nick White, scrum half, went off within the first couple of minutes. He got tackled and hit his head against the ground, and concussion. He went off. So very difficult having another, scrum half to come on and play from the beginning of the game if you didn't expect that. And then also O'Connor missing quite a couple of kicks. So as you said, at the end of the game, he had an opportunity to put Australia ahead.
mm-hmm.
So I think he missed two or three kicks during that game, three if I'm not mistaken. So definitely they could have won. And then there was one play where Afelele Fassi put the ball that tried to intercept, got a penalty. The Aussies say, and some people say it should have been a yellow card. And that was very, very close to our own try line. So that could have turned out very, very differently. So at the end of the day, it was a scrape by win for South Africa. It wasn't a dominant win. It wasn't that old South African DNA rugby that we played. We were fortunate in many, many ways to win that game. As you say, the weather, but the weather is that for both sides. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
mm-hmm.
You can't say weather-wise, but the pitch was where it was freezing cold in Cape Town. It was cold. It wasn't the nicest rugby weather. But at the end of the competition there, round one, we lost. Round two, we just won, and we're keeping it alive.
Yes, that keeping it alive. Like every team, like we've said, every team is still alive in this competition,
Yeah.
which is great to see. So yeah, the one thing you touched upon is the injuries to Australia. They had three players
Yep.
who walked off with injuries. So going up against a team like South Africa, obviously you don't want your starting players to get injured, but that's sports, and like they always say, especially in American football, next man up, and you're expected to
Mm.
perform. But yeah, I mean, there was the kicking game for Australia. You just reminded me. So yeah, the score was 23-22, and then South Africa scored a try and then a conversion.
Mm.
And then, but you had mentioned that Australia had a chance to go up 24-23, but
Yep.
they missed that last conversion kick. So yeah,
There
it
was
was a
quite a
close
couple,
game.
three kicks that could have got them the game. Yeah.
Yeah. But nonetheless, South Africa comes out victorious, and it's a win. If you see the table now, a win is a win. Doesn't matter how you
Right.
get it.
After week one, that's what we just
Yes.
need to win this game. We can't have
So
another repeat of week one, because that would have ended the country. That would have just absolutely been it. So
would you have ended your trip, cut it short
got
if
on
they
the
would have
plane
lost
the
that
next
second one?
day and come back. Yeah, I'll change my ticket. Oh
I
man.
gotta get out of here. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, this is bad. And to make things worse, when the first round, when we played against Australia, in the MMA, we have our DDP, so called Idrikus du Plessis,
Mm.
and he fought that morning and he lost after we lost against Australia.
Oh,
So, I
okay.
mean, it
Yeah,
was
that's
just
right.
the worst sporting weekend for South Africa. And
Mm.
then our cricket team lost against Australia with a couple of runs as well. So it was, believe me, that Sunday was very, very morbid. It was, oh, it was a dark day in South African sports for sure.
Did the
But then,
president call for a day of mourning? That's something.
No, to be honest, I don't think the president knows anything about the rugby unless he goes to the tournaments where they ask him to come and get a cup or something like that.
Oh,
But
okay.
let's just leave that there.
Okay. Yeah. We won't go down that road.
Definitely not. No.
And the second game of round two, Argentina, New Zealand. Argentina gets the win, and that this is a historic win because it's Argentina's first win against the All Blacks in New Zealand. So yeah, I mean, you've mentioned this a couple minutes ago. Argentina really getting those big wins over the past few years, and this is one of them. Beating the All Blacks at home during
Was
the Rugby
that
Championship.
game was in Argentina though?
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Yes. Uh,
Their first win in Argentina
Home.
against New
Yes.
Zealand.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yes. I confused those. It was Argentina's first home win against the All
right.
Blacks. Thank you.
Yeah,
I bundled that.
yeah.
I got that backwards. So yes, thank you for correcting me. Yes.
No, that's good. You
In my
know,
mind I switched it.
my brother lives in New Zealand and sends things every now and then. But if you just watch the reaction after that week, I mean, ours was
Mm,
South Africa. When the Springboks lose, we throw our toys out of the cot. We get angry. But man, when New Zealand lost to Argentina in Argentina, and they got 3 yellow cards.
mm,
Ah, my goodness! That week after that, building up to this, it was the whole week, and then there was a break, so a 2 week break before Saturday's game. But man, the people in New Zealand were literally almost crucifying those players. You know, how could you lose? It was very interesting to hear how the country went off. Specifically, those 3 yellow cards, just discipline, cost them the game. And the first loss over there, you know, it was just bad. So New Zealand really, really struggling after that game just to get the country for that 1 week back on their side and, you know, analyzing the game, and sports pundits and sports writers and commentators. It was, if you were an All Black, it was bad. You know, South Africa the previous week, it was bad. But I'm telling you, the All Blacks went all out against their team because of the lack of discipline and just the way that they lost and gave Argentina that win. But once again, well done, Argentina. They fought, and if you just watch the game and the pride and the crowd
mm.
and everyone getting behind their team, it's wonderful to see
Yes.
when a country gets behind your team like that.
Yeah, and you had mentioned they received multiple yellow cards, and it's just the lack of discipline in this game from the All Blacks was just uncharacteristic for them. And another play towards the end of the game, actually with 2 minutes left, the All Blacks have a line out, and they're like I believe about 6 or 7 meters from the Argentine try line, and unexplainably, I don't know what happened. The hooker for New Zealand goes to throw the ball, I guess trips, and then gets a penalty for not throwing the ball in the lineout.
Yeah.
You're like, what in the world is happening to the All Blacks?
It was just Argentina's day to win. They should have won that game.
Yes,
That's just, you know, the clouds were in the right position, everything aligned for them, and they had to win that day.
yes, yeah. And give credit to Argentina,
Most definitely.
yeah, because their defense, especially in the second half, um, part of the reason the All Blacks were committing all these mistakes and handling errors was because of the defense of Argentina. They're
Yep.
really aggressive with the defense in the second half. And I mean, you've played rugby before, and I mean, I haven't. I've played sports, but more recreational. I've never played professional or stuff like that. But when you're going up against a tough defense, it goes to your head. and you get upset, you start committing mistakes because you're going up against a tough defense that's really giving it to you. And I think that's part of the reason the All Blacks, were just not playing their game in the second half because of the defense of Argentina. So a lot of credit to that Argentine defense in the second half.
Yeah, and it's one of the worst things when Argentina didn't necessarily score tries, but the scoreboard is just ticking 3 points, three
Mm-hmm.
points, 3 points. With every penalty that they gave, I mean, they didn't miss very many kicks. And when you look up again, even though they didn't score a try, they got 9 points. You know, that's where did those come from? From discipline, from bad mistakes
Yes.
that you made. And when you look up again, there's 12 points. And that's very demotivating. Or
Mm-hmm.
demote, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, where you play so hard, you scrum, you ruck, you line out, but the points for them just tick, 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 slowly, 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 And at the end of it all adds up. And then, as you say, the last 5 minutes of the game, maybe a mistake that the hooker makes, something like that, is just thinking we got to score, we have to, we can't let this, and then you make that terrible error, and another penalty for them. So that could be another thing as well. Is just those slowly 3, 6, 9, those points
Mm-hmm.
because of bad discipline, and eventually it gets to you.
Yes. Yes, it does. And and you just bringing the kicking, and this is one point that I wanted. Just going back to the South Africa and Australia, the round two game, you just reminded me. The interesting thing about that game was again the kicking. The South Africa chose to do the first two penalties. They chose to kick the ball, and they got 6 points out of those two kicks. Which was a very interesting strategy. Being, I guess, it got in their head from the previous game. Hey, we got to get points on the board
Yeah,
early.
definitely. You're
Yeah.
behind now in the competition. I mean, you've lost the first game
Mhm.
that you shouldn't have lost. That was at Ellis Park, where the Aussies have never beaten us. So you
Yes.
can't lose that. And now you lose that game. Now the second game you're playing in wet weather. It's just not good. So you got to play the more what we chose in the conservative game.
Yes.
Try and get points on the board. Where, as you say, previously we would have probably gone for the line and done a ruck and a line out, maul or something like that. But in a position like that, you need to win this game. And however you're going to get the points on the board to win, you take those points. So
Yes.
got the kicker that we had there with Mr. Ice in his veins, doesn't miss, take all those big pressure kicks and just put them
Yes.
through and, building up. So that was very, very necessary for us to win that game, is to get those 3, 6, 9, just those points from the penalties, because it's becoming more and more difficult to score, try against these guys, because the defense of all these teams is so amazing that you got to take 3 points where you can.
Yes. And you've mentioned it many times before. Rifle kicking is a huge part of rugby, and
Yep.
in tight games, uh, if you have a dependable kicker in these tight games that you're gonna have often with the top teams, you're gonna want to have a dependable kicker. It's a huge thing to have.
Very much so, yeah. There's
Yeah.
the World Cup standing in South Africa today because of our kicker.
Mhm.
There's round two, Australia losing to South Africa because, if their kicker, and some of those kicks weren't difficult. Obviously, the field is wet, so it's difficult
Mhm.
circumstances and the conditions are not perfect. But if one of those kicks went over while we were just 1 point ahead, then when they kick the kick over, they leading. And now to come back and having to score or kick, it just makes it so much more difficult at the end of the game if there's
Yes.
not a lot of time left. And now you're really under pressure to try and claw your way back where you were in the lead to try and gain the lead again. So yeah, kicking it's absolutely crucial in these games for sure.
Yes. Yes, it is, and it proved that in both games in the second round. So yeah.
Mm.
So with that, just wanted, as always, just wanted to highlight a few plays from the first two rounds of the 2025 Rugby Championship. So round one. We had the round one game, South Africa and Australia. So I just wanted to highlight this play here. And let me just make this a little bigger so that our audience could just see this. Here we go. So this is the round one game, uh, South Africa and Australia. So this play right here, I'm just gonna play it first here. So we have coming off a ruck, and this is, sorry, rifle, I chose this play.
I was
Please
just going
forgive
to
me.
ask you, Danny, could you not find another clip to play as a highlight, please? But it's too late now.
I'm sorry, rifle. I'm sorry. I just had to. My apologies. So as you see here, and this was one of the many, not to rub it salt in your wounds, please, I apologize, rifle. One of the quite a few mistakes, unfortunately, that South Africa committed in this game. So as all the rugby fans know, and if you're new to rugby, uh, obviously South Africa is a team that likes to get the ball. They like to spread the ball. They're quick. They have one of their fastest players, Chelsea Colby. Is probably one of the fastest players in the world of rugby, and they have other players that are really fast as well. I believe this is Grant Williams, if I'm not mistaken, who currently
Correct,
has the
yeah.
ball. Another great player for South Africa, up and coming player who's really becoming a great scrum half in the world of rugby. But unfortunately, in this one, trying to spread the ball, he doesn't see that the Australian rugby players are there. I'm sorry, not him, but his his teammate. Was that Pollard that had?
I think that was Jesse Creel.
Okay, Jesse. I'm sorry. Yes. So Jesse Creel did not see that there were three Australian defenders there close to the ball, and unfortunately, he made a pass. The Australian player intercepts the ball and scores a try. Unfortunate for the for the Springboks, but it is what it is.
It is. It was
Unfortunately,
good reading by the Aussies there. They knew what to do.
yes. Second game of round one, we have New Zealand and Argentina. I chose this play because it was one of those plays. I think I've mentioned this before. Every once in a while, you have a play in rugby that you're like, how in the world did they just score? Uh, but somehow they scored. And this is one of these plays. And let me just show the play here. So we have, this is the try line here, everyone. So Argentina is literally about a meter away from the try line, trying to score. And then this play happens. So then the ruck gets the ball, mishandles, throws the ball back. He doesn't know where he's going. Throws the ball back again. Throws the ball back again, and boom, we have a try. So yeah, it was amazing just seeing the confusion of the players. Is like, oh, do I go this way? No. Well, let me just throw it back. Let me just play it one more time. So first we have a mishandle of the ball, then he just throws it back, hits the floor. Lucky it doesn't bounce too much, able to pick it up. So this player tackled, just throws it back, and this player somehow finds a teammate who's open, and they score. The Argentine score a try. But hey, it's a try, right? Doesn't matter how it goes or how it happens. So yeah, I found that play a little funny, just seeing all the mishandles, but somehow Argentina scores on that try. Good for them. So now the third, well, this is second game of round two. So let me just do this play here. So this play is New Zealand scoring. Again, boom. Another ruck, and they finally score. So I just want to highlight this play again. I just mentioned the great teams. They uh, like to get the ball and spread. What's the term? Spread the ball or spread the field? Well, in football they say spread the field.
Yeah,
In
spread the
rugby,
ball.
spread the ball.
Mm.
So yeah, the great teams, they get the ball and they spread the ball quickly. They don't think twice about it. They don't second guess themselves. They spread the ball. And obviously, if you spread the ball, that makes it harder on the defense because now the defense has to spread, their players as well. And everybody knows if you spread your players too wide, you have gaps that open up, and the offense could take advantage of those gaps that open up. So yeah, so this was a great score by New Zealand, spreading the ball, and boom, there you go. That gap was created because all the Argentine players were trying to run back, but unfortunately they couldn't run back to the ball too quickly because they were so far away from where the play started. So yeah, great score by the All Blacks. And the last play I wanted to highlight here. Okay, this is a South African score, uh, rifle, so you don't have to worry about this one.
Mhm.
So we have score here. So being tackled just short of the line. Perfect kick, perfect bounce, and South Springboks score. So just watching play, over the past years and watching hundreds of plays over the past couple of years of different scored tries and everything. A kick to your teammate to score the try is becoming one of my favorites.
Mm.
Because as you know, in American football, in order to score a touchdown, you have to throw the ball. And throwing the ball is a hard skill. Throwing the ball accurately is a hard skill. Not everybody could do it in American football. So I'm not taking anything away from that. But kicking the ball very accurately to a teammate to score, I would say it's probably a little harder. So when I see just running this play again, again, tackle, ruck, Williams, the scrum half, gets the ball. And then the perfect kick from Pollard to his teammate. Nice bounce, gets the ball, scores a try. So kicking the ball accurately, in my opinion, is a lot harder than passing a ball to a teammate and having them score. So yeah, great play right there, coming from a
Those
kick.
kicks are becoming more and more prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was playing, or quite a couple of years ago, that didn't happen. So as the game has evolved, kicking has become a bigger part of the game. So especially the fly half kicking to the wing, seeing maybe the backs are up and they're trying to do a rush defense, so you need to get behind them. So it's very, very difficult if you a defender and you're going up and the opposing team kicks the ball over your head because now you're running flat out that way. Now you got to literally stop, turn, and now you got to go and try and chase the ball. So if a fly half can read that well and he can communicate with his wing very, very effectively, those kicks have become. I mean, we've seen Finn Russell do that many, many
Yes.
times. We've seen Andre Pollard do that as well. So a lot of people use those kicks now, and they work well when they work.
And we also saw it live with the women's team against Fiji. That beautiful kick during the
Yes,
U.S. Eagles women's, that beautiful, perfect kick to the corner of the field for the woman to score, the woman Eagles to score a try. So we saw it
correct.
live
Yeah,
through our trip
yes,
to DC. So yeah,
yes. Mm.
that's probably one of my favorite, becoming one of my favorite ways of seeing a try scored is that perfect kick to a teammate. Pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, definitely is.
So with that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode covering the first two rounds of the 2025 Rugby Championship. This weekend is a huge, huge game in the rugby world with the Springboks taking on the All Blacks in Eden Park. And we're gonna just not to get too much into it because we're gonna cover this in our next episode. But this is historic games for many reasons. The fact being that the All Blacks haven't lost in the last 50 Test matches in Eden Park. Artie Surveyor being his 100th cap during this game, the captain of the All Black, the current captain of the All Blacks, and many other historic facts about this game that we're going to cover in the next episode. So yeah, a huge, huge game in the world of rugby this weekend with the Springboks taking on the All Blacks in Eden Park.
3 o'clock Saturday morning Eastern time. We'll be there.
Yes. So that means Rifle has to go to bed like about 6 in the afternoon, get a few hours, and then wake
That's
up.
okay. I definitely will.
The sacrifice you have to make, but it's
Yeah.
for rugby.
What we do for this program.
So with that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Rifle, my friend, I'm glad you're back from South Africa. One piece. Welcome back,
Yes,
and thank you
safe.
again for joining me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for watching, everyone.
So with that, everyone, take care, and until next time, take care, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching this episode of Rugby with Rifle. Remember to press the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to support this podcast.